January 2020, Colorado. An 11-year-old boy vanishes from his home without a trace. Friends and neighbors search. The family pleads for help. But behind the tears was a secret no one saw coming. This is the story of Gannon Stauch and the betrayal that took his life.
So today, the first one we picked to cover is one from here in Colorado back in 2020. And it is the case of Colorado versus Letecia Stauch.
Yes, January 27th of 2020 is when this horrific event started. Back on January 27th of 2020, Letecia Stauch is her name. She viciously murdered her stepson, Gannon, and then tried to cover it up as a missing persons, calling him in that he was missing. And she just constantly was changing her story through those first couple days. Do you have anything to add to that, Vicki, with that?
Yeah, she even set this up prior. I guess some background information on Letecia is, I believe she's from South Carolina originally, but she met Al Stauch, who was a member of the National Guard. And of course, they fell in love. They had both, I believe they'd both been married before, but they both had children and fell in love. They got married, blended their families together. Letecia had a daughter, and Al had two young children, Gannon, and I forget his sister's name. I think Gannon at the time was like 5 and the little girl was 2. And, as it goes with military families, even if it's not a blended family, if it's, say, the husband who's in the military and he has to go away, it falls on the wife to do everything.
Yeah. So they were married a pretty long time before this happened.
They were married a few years. It wasn't a long time.
Okay.
It had been a few years.
So
but initially, they did not have custody of the children. Al's ex-wife still had custody of the children, but once he married Letecia, after a little bit of time went by, he's like, I want my kids. I want to have full custody of my kids. And so he petitioned the court. He got full custody, and the 2 children came to live here in Colorado with him and Letecia.
I think that for her, that's when things started to go bad, because she was such a jealous person and wanting his undivided attention.
Yeah. And like I say, it's hard. It's hard if it's your own kids and you're in the, your spouse is in the military. Not only are you worried about what's going on with them wherever they're located, but now you've got your own children to take care of. And as single parents know, that's not easy. You are mom and dad to those kids 24/7. There's no one to call for help.
Absolutely.
And these weren't her kids, right? These 2 children, I feel like she felt they got dumped on her. I think initially she was like, great, we're going to be together and we'll raise your kids together. We'll raise my daughter together. And he's like, but I got to go to Alaska. I'm going to be there a while. So I know we just got my 2 children, but you have to take care of them now.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking, in my mind, my own personal opinion is, when he got custody of those children and they came into their lives, she did not know what the commitment is with that. And that's when things for her started to go bad.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it was jealousy. But I feel also like a lot of it was just overwhelming stress. Something she didn't sign up for. Right.
Well, I think she says, oh, I want to be with you and your kids. I think that's sounds good in theory, but when you actually do it, she was probably like, well, I didn't really mean for them to live here 24/7.
Yes, because there is video that came out either during the trial or after the trial. When you have a trial, especially a capital murder case, as all the evidence is gathered, the judge will put a gag order on a lot of that.
Yeah.
Us public can't know that information. because the person's not going to get a fair trial then if we know everything.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was during the trial or after, but there's video that Al recorded, or Letecia recorded and Al found, of Letecia and Harley doing like a happy dance when Gannon and his sister would have to go out to be with the ex-wife in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, they were thrilled those kids were gone.
Yeah, exactly. She may have said that in the beginning, but she did not want to be the caregiver, the parent to those children 24/7,
Nope.
365 days a year. She did not want to do that. You know, she made it sound good, but I don't think she ever wanted to take on that parenting of those two children.
No, she wanted Al, and that's what she wanted, but she got a package deal. So, yeah, so as it went on, I don't think that she, and the strange thing is about her is I don't think she like abused the kids prior to this. So how she went from just having some small resentment, which again, I think a lot of military spouses have at that moment when the spouse has to leave. And even if you don't have kids, it could be your animals, right? It could just be taking care of everything with the house and your husband or your wife is gone. So I don't know how she went from just having some resentment to murder.
Well, like she would take them hiking and rock climbing and doing bonding things with them, and then to go from all of that to this crazy psychotic behavior. I don't get it either.
No. You know,
but I don't buy the dual personality bit though either, that she was talking about, that her having this post-traumatic stress or whatever they call it, dissociative identity disorder from childhood trauma, whatever she was cooking up there for her defense. I don't necessarily believe that either.
I feel that Gannon was a bit of a harder child, right? She didn't end up having to take care of two perfect, well-behaved children, and not even well-behaved, because I mean, you know, at that age, 5 and 2, terrible 2s, and even into the 3s, you know, it's rough. But Gannon was also autistic, and he also had GI issues, where I don't exactly know what his GI issues are, and it really doesn't matter, but there were often times where he would have accidents, and, you know, she would be in charge of that. So there were some medical issues with him as well. And I think that added to her stress.
Her resentfulness, I think.
Yeah, resentfulness and just stress. You know, stress can make people do some pretty crazy things, from, you know, child abuse to killing somebody. Stress affects all of us differently. Still not an excuse for murder. It's a pick up the phone. Somebody, I need help, right? I'm having a hard time here. There's always somebody.
Yeah.
And that's important for everybody to remember. Even if you don't have a spouse, or you don't have friends, or you don't work, but you are having stress, there are hotlines, there are people you can reach out to. Call the police if you have to. Call a church. Call a hotline and talk to somebody.
Yes.
Because we don't know how really a huge stressor can impact you, because most of us don't really see that huge impact, right? We don't ever get to that point. We have little stresses, but we don't ever get to that point where you're ready to kill somebody.
Well, no. And and you have a good insight too, being a military spouse, and just the military aspect of it, and being alone and having to take care of business. You understand the pressure of that just in itself.
Yeah, and I don't think he was in the National Guard, which would have been a lot different. I still feel that the resources were there for her. I don't think she looked for resources. And I think because before she plotted and planned, because she did plan to kill Gannon. This was not a heat of the moment.
No.
Oh,
no.
look what you did. She plotted this because here in the last, I would say 2 months, maybe 3 months, the El Paso County Police in Colorado have released more body cam footage.
Yes.
Months before she killed Gannon, she was making up stories and calling the police about somebody breaking into the house.
She was setting the stage. She was setting the stage for months.
Yeah.
And I'm almost, and there was part of me, like I just had said that, you know, well, she was taking him to the Garden of the Gods and they were doing rock climbing and stuff. And I'm like, well, did she initially think he could have had an accident and fall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I know, because I think we had talked about this before. I don't think she ever intentionally planned to kill him, in the sense that she was trying to get Al's attention. She wanted Al at home with her. They were relatively newly married. His kids were there. She wanted him at home. She wasn't a person who didn't love Al, because I think she was overly jealously in love with Al.
Well,
and
yeah,
so
she wanted him all to himself. And Gannon, being a son, a boy, you know, fathers and sons have special bonds. And I still say she didn't like that. And when he was home, he probably gave a lot of attention to him.
Yeah. But like I'm saying, I don't think that was the beginning of it. I think Al was working night shift when he was here in Colorado. This is before he went to Alaska. He was working night shift for the military.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't home at night, right? And so she's like, well, if I stage these break-ins at my house and I call the cops, I got to call my husband. He's going to come rushing home, and he's going to feel like it's unsafe, and he's going to stay home with me at night. Maybe he'll talk to his command, get them to change his shift. If that would have happened, maybe you don't know. Maybe Gannon would still be here. And I'm not blaming Al, and I'm not blaming the command. But what I'm saying is that if she would have got that attention, and I don't think she deserved the attention, but if she would have gotten it, I don't know that she would have killed him.
Very narcissistic. She's just.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't any words, really, to describe this woman.
And the stories that she came up with are ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she kept him home from school that day, but they still went out and did things so that she would be seen in public with him and that he was alive. She was setting up that, you know, when someone's kidnapped,
that whole narrative,
the police or the family will always want proof of life.
Yes.
Right. And that's what she was doing. She was setting up this proof of life. Like, hey, here we are. We're out and about. He looks healthy. And then
have you listened to any of that phone conversation?
I listened to all of her phone conversations.
Yeah. With her, you know, talking to her husband, even she did I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you did. She did like a video call that night too, saying, you know, spinning this yarn about this spilled wax and Gannon, you couldn't see him. I really couldn't see his face, but he was kind of wrapped up in the blanket, and all you could hear was this whimpering and crying. I think he was initially hurt at that point.
Yeah, see, I don't. I think it was because she
or drugged.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they found drugs in his system.
They did find drugs in his system. They
the Benadryl and stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't any kind of, you know, there might have been an opioid too. And she said she did that because he was having pain from his GI issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think it was enough to kill. Obviously, wasn't enough to kill him. No, I don't think that I don't know if he was injured at that point. But what I do know,
I think he was. When you sit there and listen to, it was kind of whimpering. It was, and I think that was just her way of trying to establish this timeline. Well, he's still, you know, he was fine. He was right here, and we did that. You know, he was being whiny because he got in trouble.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why he was whiny. It wasn't because she had beaten him at that point and he was crying from that. No, she berated him. She made that little boy feel like crap that night about that burn. She said he was going to have to go sell some of his toys.
Yep. Oh,
And
I know.
she berated him. And I think that he went to bed that night so upset that, you know how we are when we're kids and you disappoint your parent? Because Al said that Letecia and Gannon actually had a good relationship before this. Al said that Gannon was a mama's boy and that he loved his mom. And I forget her name as well, but that he also loved Letecia. So she made it, and there's recording of it because she's recorded it on her phone when she's saying, look, we got to fix this carpet. We're not going to tell your dad. We're going to fix this carpet. You're going to have to sell some of your toys. I mean, who said that to a child who did something on accident?
Who records it on their phone? I'm telling you, he had 4 blunt force traumas to the head. And he probably had 1 or 2 of them or all 4 at the point of that video.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if you have those kind of wounds, I think you would.
You'd be moaning and crying. Yeah. He had 4 blunt force traumas.
Oh yeah, I know what she did.
Yeah.
We can agree to disagree on that point.
I think that's where it started. I mean, maybe he didn't spill the wax. Maybe that first one was her hitting him with the wax pot. I don't know. No speculation. I'm just saying from what I heard on that video call, and who does that? Who records that stuff to send it? You don't do that unless you're trying to cover it. I don't know anybody.
Well, like I said, even that woman, even the other woman I talked to you about earlier today, Sarah Boone. She put the guy in the suitcase and she recorded it. They do stupid stuff. Criminals are not smart people. They're not. They just aren't. You know.
Not to get off track, but we'll have to do one on that husband and wife that just was in the last few days. Talk about doing stuff on the security camera.
Yeah, people are stupid. They don't really think. But yeah, so whether it had started then or he was just crying because he went to bed and he knew he disappointed his mom, I don't know. Nobody would know except her, right?
I think he would have talked to his father because he wasn't even talking. I mean, no. I just don't.
Yeah, because she said, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was all staged to set this alibi. Or do.
The word, it just goes from bad to worse there with her lies.
Oh my God.
She calls the police and says, he's missing. He was supposed to go to his friend's house and he's not there. He's not at the park. She didn't even know the name of the friend or where the friend lived.
No, none of it.
He knew nothing.
Absolutely.
Because he never went there. Which is very, obvious. And then she said later on during her police interview that somebody broke into the house, something to do with fixing the carpet, and the contractors were in the house and she was raped and they kidnapped Gannon.
Yes.
But she refused to go have any testing done at the hospital for a rape.
Well, yeah, no. And then she told Al that she knew when she was trying to get him to give her immunity, because by this time, Al figured out there is something wrong, especially with the rental cars and everything. And he started working. He went to the police and started working with them and started doing these recorded phone calls with her when she really went off of her rocker and wanting immunity.
Yeah.
Trying to establish all that.
Yeah, I mean that definitely came a bit later, but yeah, I mean, what did she want immunity from? If you don't know, but her thing was, I mean, literally though, what did she want immunity from? It makes no logical sense, but in her mind, it made sense because she was still going with the story of, I think at that point she was going with the Mexican cartel and sex trafficking, and she blamed Al. She blamed Al for having like these connections. And nothing to do with Al.
Nothing.
And who comes up with drug cartels and sex trafficking and people who are fixing your carpet and then someone's raping you. And she even cleaned everything up. And she told Al, I cleaned it up because I couldn't stand to look at it.
Yeah.
I get that. That if that would to truly happen to somebody, it would be horrific. And you might not want to see it, right? You might want to clean up, but it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know about that either. But well, and that's where I was saying she did all that with the car, the worker and then the cartel and all of this stuff down to trying this new line of, well, I knew these people and the police were here and looking around. And I don't know if she was trying to say he was hiding in the house and that she knew, but she wouldn't say, wouldn't you tell if you knew somebody came in and hurt your son or your stepson or anybody in your family, your dog, for crying out loud, you wouldn't be keeping those names to yourself.
No, but that's why she wanted immunity. But it doesn't make sense because immunity would protect her, but no one else. But she was trying to say, okay, these drug cartels, if I tell the police what happened, they're going to kill Gannon or they're going to kill me or they're going to kill you, Al. They're going to kill somebody. They've threatened us.
Yes.
So I can't tell you anything. So give me immunity. Okay, but unless you did something wrong, you don't need immunity.
Well, yeah,
and
because
not done anything wrong,
it's going to implicate her because I'm going to be implicated. They're going to blame me. Well, yeah, they're going to blame you.
I love when she would say to Al, "Do you even know what immunity is?" And
yes,
he was so good. And he's like, "Well, other than what I've seen on TV, I don't know what immunity."
She was just raging, and you could tell in her voice when she was real crying.
Yeah,
and when she was faking it.
Yeah. So that happened like in beginning of March when this happened, and she was not arrested until May 5th. So 2 months later. But before, I want to bring up another point though. While she's making up all these crazy speculations, and while she's, oh, woe is me, it wasn't me, blah blah blah, she's given interviews down in Colorado Springs on like KRDO or KKTV. She literally gave an interview with her daughter where they sat there or stood there and said, we don't know where he is. We miss him. If somebody has him, please bring him home. Just pleading, for somebody to say what happened to Gannon. How can you get on camera and do that? That's just mischief. And the thing was, she had Harley with her, which is her daughter.
Yes.
And she manipulated that girl too. I can guarantee you, I don't know Harley. She's young. She's a young girl. I mean, she's a 20-some-year-old. I know that she was not involved with this. I mean, she said things on the stand, like if she ever were to question her mother, Letecia would often backhand her across the face. So I feel that Harley may have felt in her gut something was going on, but she surely was not going to speak out against Letecia. No. She was scared of her.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, yeah. But yeah, she was not arrested until 2 months later. And at that point, they still had not found his body.
No.
But they had enough circumstantial evidence to arrest her. And then it wasn't until, oh no, actually I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong.
They found him.
On the 17th of March.
In March, yeah.
And they arrested her in May, a couple months later. I guess maybe at that point when they were still gathering evidence because Al called her in February.
Valentine. He called her specifically on Valentine's Day because that was the first thing he said. That would have been Happy Valentine's Day. And this man, I do not know how he did it. I do not know where he had pulled it basically out of his soul to talk to that woman, like pretty much like trying to be the loving, concerned husband and be supportive of her, knowing that she did something to him, because they knew at this point most likely that she's the one that did it, and he was just trying to get her to confess to that stuff. But that man, he's stuck. I mean, he lost it a few times where you could hear his voice and he's just pleading, if you know, please tell me. And he was still, I mean, it was scripted, and he's like, just tell me who these people are, just tell me. And she just, that's when she was going on about needing the immunity.
Yeah.
But that, I just cannot, as a parent, I don't think I could hold that together, to be honest. I really
Well,
don't.
that's where his military training came in, right?
Yeah.
You just go on autopilot, you do what you've got to do, and that's all there is to it. And I mean, I probably would too if it was somebody that I knew and I suspected them.
Yeah.
I probably could act too, because I want the truth, right?
Yeah.
He knew her enough. I mean, he should have known that she was not going to. Okay, yeah. So he calls in February. They have all those conversations, and she was arrested March 2nd
Yes.
of 2020 in
Yeah.
South Carolina, and they brought her back.
Yeah.
To Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, God.
Oh, I was just going to say, we could just kind of real briefly for maybe those that don't know. So they had key pieces of evidence and things. And then after they had found, Gannon was found, of course, they had the autopsy findings. So just as far as like, do you kind of want to give a quick overview of that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do before you said that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Go on, my fearless leader.
So when they found his body, now you got to look at Colorado to Florida, 1,300 miles, right?
Yes.
And when they found his body, it was in a suitcase under a bridge in Pace, Florida.
Yes.
So she drove from Colorado, I believe, to like Texas. They stayed overnight and then out to Florida, got a hotel. And what they're saying she did was that his body was in the van the whole time. And she got up in the middle of the night and she drove out to a bridge and she chucked that poor boy's body over the bridge.
Yeah.
When they found him, and then through the autopsy, again, this is an 11-year-old boy. Y'all know how big an 11-year-old boy is. She stabbed him 18 times. She hit him so hard in the head that they said his skull was fractured almost like an eggshell. Yeah. And she shot him.
Yeah, 4 blunt traumas, and then the gunshot to the head.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's an 11-year-old boy. I mean,
11-year-old boy. And the other thing is too, is I believe I saw, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that in the initial, when they were searching for him and the husband came home, that's what tipped him off. She rented another car. She had him in her car. Mm-hmm. And went and parked it at the airport. Mm-hmm. And then got a rent-a-car and then tried to say she's had a rent-a-car so she didn't put miles on her car.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a lease, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that she left her car parked at work. Well, Al went down to the school she was working at and her car was not there.
Yeah.
And that's what really, I think, was probably some other things too.
No,
and then he went. Yeah, and then he went to the police at that point.
Yeah.
So he was in the trunk for days.
Yeah. Yep. And Florida wasn't the first place she tried to get rid of his body.
Yeah. No.
She initially, when he was in the back of her Tiguan, she drove up from Colorado Springs up to Douglas County near Castle Rock, Colorado. Yeah. And that was the first dump site. Mm-hmm. And she went back and that I don't understand about killers as well, because they often do that. Their gut reaction is, I've got to get rid of this body, and they'll go dump it somewhere. And I guess they go home and sleep on it and go, well, that wasn't a good place.
Yeah.
Really? But a lot of killers will remove the body. So she went back up to Douglas County and she put him back in the car and she took him back to wherever she took him in Colorado Springs. God. And then a little bit after that, she rents because she says, look, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Just because of the stress, not because I did anything wrong, but I've got to get out of here.
Yeah. Yes.
So her and Harley, go over to Florida. I think they said they were going back to like South Carolina and had stayed in Florida. That was their story. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And then she, like Lori said, she tried the insanity plea. which was I was sexually abused as a child and I was disassociating when this happened. Yes, I inflicted those wounds on him, but it wasn't me.
I don't remember.
I was out of my mind.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah,
and I just have these flashbacks, and at one point she said, she gave like this in-depth step-by-step of her coming down the stairwell and then seeing somebody cloaked in a cape. And I mean, these stories, as they changed, the details of them would just get like more and more elaborate.
And the whole cloaked in the cape thing was also her because they said Gannon, who loved video games and he loved Sonic the Hedgehog, he would run around in like a cape.
Yes.
And so she was like, if I did this, maybe it was Gannon and he was wearing his cape, but I thought it was a man.
Yes.
Well, what man's going to run around your freaking house in a cape? Come on, lady.
No.
But the courts found her competent to stand trial.
Oh, yeah.
And so she did.
Yeah, she like would come in and then she would refuse. She would refuse to show up. She did all kinds of stuff, but they had her thoroughly tested, and it did come back that she's crazy, but she's competent.
Yeah, because there's a big difference there.
Yes. Between crazy and insane.
Yeah.
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 To prove an insanity plea, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. A lot of murderers or people that do something wrong, that will be the plea they enter to the court. But you still have to go through all the psychiatrists. Like, you need to have a diagnosis. Anybody, I can walk up to Lori and say you're insane, but unless you have a diagnosis of a schizophrenia or
something,
something that causes you to break mentally, you're not going to get an insanity plea. You're just not. And don't get me wrong, there were professionals that they brought in during the course of the trial that said this happened to her, this happened to her, and this happened to her as a child.
Yeah.
So that could put two and two together. But I think the most she took as an adult was an anxiety medication occasionally. She wasn't on any sort of regimented medication for a mental health issue. So, and we all have moments, I'm sure, in our lives where maybe it's a death in the family or something happens where you're not handling the situation well. The doctor will give you a temporary medication to help.
Yeah.
Right. That happens to a lot of people. That does not qualify you as being insane.
No. And she said, what was her claiming her alter personality? Maria. Nobody had ever even heard of Maria.
No.
There was no past experiences with or documentation, anything regarding it with her family as far as her having this Maria personality.
Yeah. She's not a smart lady because there's not one thing that she said or that she did that did not prove that she was guilty. I mean, everything she did.
Yeah.
It was so confabulated. Is that a word? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was just so over the top.
Yeah.
That it was totally unbelievable. And that right there is a red flag, right? Law enforcement, they know what they're doing.
They do.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Well, look at the investigators, the internet searches she was doing.
Hell yeah.
Blood spurting from arterial bleed. Who Googles, I don't like my stepson.
Should I get a divorce? Yeah.
Yeah. And body composing. I'm sorry.
That's the other thing. Like, okay, look, I get 20 years ago before we had so much internet and before we could see how the process works. But look, if you're out there right now and you're listening to this and you're thinking about committing a crime, just know that the cops can get things you've taken on that are on your phone that you think you deleted. The cops can get that information. You can put your phone, you can turn it off.
Your digital footprint.
There is a digital footprint everywhere.
Yeah, and it doesn't leave.
It doesn't lie.
But anyways, if you are listening to this, go get some help. Talk to somebody. That is not the path to take.
No. But there's so much. that everything. So yeah, and not only that, it's funny to watch trials, especially Letecia. She was a good one because
Oh my
as she
God.
sat in that courtroom, like Lori said, half the time in the beginning she didn't want to come.
No.
Which is your right.
They had kept delaying and just back and forth. It was awful.
Yeah, you have the right not to sit there in your trial if you don't want to. I think you'd be foolish not to, but that is your right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there was a back and forth on that. She was acting out during the trial. She was covertly, but not so covertly that even the jurors saw it. She was giving witnesses the finger, trying to intimidate them while they were trying to
off.
Yeah. To the point where the judge said, look, knock it off, or I'm just going to chain your hand. This is the thing about court. You might be accused of, say, murder, right? But you are still innocent until proven guilty. So your hands cannot be shackled while you're sitting there. So that's why she had that freedom. But if you act out, if you become a threat, either just, so if you're a witness and the defendant is giving you the fingers, that could be viewed as threatening, right? If you're a threat to other people in the courtroom, a physical threat, they will handcuff you because now you're just a security issue. But generally, a defendant has the right to wear regular street clothing and be unhandcuffed because they are still innocent.
Yes.
Now, once you go through your process, and if you're found guilty, anytime you appear in court after that, you are going to be in your orange jumpsuit and you are going to be shackled. So the judge said, look, you can straighten up and stop behaving like this, or I will take away your right and I will shackle you. But I will shackle you underneath the desk because that would not allow the jurors to see her handcuffed. Because the belief is if they see, just like us, if we're driving down the road and we see a crew of, say, prison workers out there cleaning up the roadside, if they're shackled, we have a different opinion of that prisoner. Why are they shackled? Why are their feet shackled? Are they going to run away? So you don't want to give jurors the impression that that person's already guilty because they are not guilty until the case is over. So that's just kind of how the court works. But yeah, I mean, we also decided we want to cover these kind of stories. But at the end of the day, we want to cover these stories because it's about human nature, right? A very sad and dark side of human nature. And how does somebody get there? Why do they do those things? And sometimes there are no answers as to why these people commit these kind of crimes. But there's always, these people will be studied by psychiatrists for years and years and years while they're in jail because we want to know. We want to be able to stop people from doing things like this or committing mass murders.
Are there early warning signs? Things.
How do we stop it? But at the end of the day, when this podcast is over, we will be changing the thumbnail of our podcast to honor it, like in this video, it'd be to honor Gannon, because Gannon is the one that should be honored and should be remembered, not Letecia. Letecia, we need to flush the toilet on that lady.
Oh yeah.
But Gannon is the one who needs to stay in our memory. And so we will change the thumbnail on anybody that we cover. We will be changing the thumbnail to honor the victims because that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Letecia, let's see, she got how many years in jail? Like 150?
Yeah, something like that.
I was gonna add it. Oh yeah, she got life without parole plus 156 years.
Yeah.
So she is never getting out. However, and we can end on this. I don't know. This just goes to show how crazy she is. She was taken from Colorado prison and transferred to a prison in Kansas.
Yes.
And so for the last maybe 2 years, she's been out of prison in Kansas. But as of May of this year, for whatever reason, they brought her back to Colorado, and they're now housing her in Denver at the women's prison in Denver. And so she has been making a lot of new friends on the internet because these prisoners do get some internet privileges.
And that is not right. She should be down in Canyon City or in wherever one of the supermaxes are and spending her days in quiet solitude thinking about what she did and not being able to have internet and phone, living the life.
They all do. They all do. Because I watch a lot of court cases from pretty much all over the country. And people can commit the most heinous crimes and they will go to jail. And they will have internet privileges. They will have phone privileges. They will have mail privileges. Now, that's not to say they can get on the internet and go play World of Warcraft. It's going to be regulated.
Yeah.
But they still have those rights.
I'm not saying she shouldn't have some form of activity. I mean, she could read a book. She could, walk out in the yard or whatever for an hour of exercise, whatever it may be. But I don't know, it just seems like she's having it a little bit easier than
it's all like that.
Yeah.
Brian Kohlberger, who just killed the 4 Idaho students, university students. Same thing for him. He's in solitary. He gets out 1 hour a day, I believe, into a locked cage in the yard. But he still has internet privileges. He can buy a television. So it's not just our prison here. It's all of them.
I'm sorry if this offends somebody, but I'm of the belief if you are truly guilty and you are guilty of that horrific crime, they ought to drop you like a bad habit instead of wasting taxpayers' money.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think if it was something that was recorded, clear as a day, it was something that recorded, you're on the camera with the gun in your hand and you're firing. Yeah. But in other situations where the evidence might be a little bit more obtuse, but the jury still finds them guilty.
What I'm meaning by that is if this is a case that is tried and say with this and you get the death penalty, very few of them even ever go to that. It's like here in Colorado, I think in his first term, Polis got rid of the death penalty here. So we don't have that here in Colorado anymore. But it just seems like I lost my train of thought. If you do that horrific crime such as that and they know, and not where it's accidental or anything along that line, but I'm talking like these serial killers and just this horrific murders, that you shouldn't be wasting any more time. They shouldn't sit for their lives and to be able to die in prison if they received a death penalty sentence.
Yeah, well, she doesn't have that, as you know.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying in general.
But the other issue is there have been cases. It does not happen often, but we will see it more and more and more now that we have DNA and through genealogy. Mm-hmm. We will see more cases I can guarantee you, we will see more cases in the prison system overturned because of a wrongful conviction. And if that were to happen, and we've already executed the person, how do you know? I mean, you can't fix that. You can't fix that. And that would end up to be a huge, huge lawsuit for the state, one that the state probably couldn't even afford to pay. So you do have to have some amount of buffer. I don't really know what that buffer is, but you do need to have some amount of buffer for appeals. Even though they did a horrible thing, that is still their right to appeal. I don't think people should get off on a technicality because a lawyer didn't dot an I and cross a T.
Well, how many years of appeals do you think is acceptable?
Well, I don't know.
Because 20, 30 years of appeals, that's your life.
Maybe if you go to prison at 30, you could spend 60 years in jail. And here's my thought on that, though. After researching like where Brian Koberger is going to be housed or where he is housed, I would rather be dead, honestly. I mean, he is in his probably early 30s, mid 30s, healthy. So he's probably going, and he's not going to pick up any bad habits in prison, like smoking or doing drugs, maybe.
Yeah.
Because he's in an isolation unit, he's in a room by himself. If they bring people out, it's like a quad. And if they bring people out, they handcuff them to a metal desk and chair. And only one prisoner's allowed out at a time. Like they can't interact with one another. They spend 23 hours, all their meals in there, but they spend 23 hours in this little, like the size of your bathroom. They're allowed out 1 hour a day. To me, I don't really think my mind could handle that. Go live in your bathroom by yourself with a whole lot of nothing. See if you could do it for 8 hours. I think having to live like that is torture. And it is, to me, it is the torture they deserve. Because when you end somebody's life, it's over and it's done. They're not hurting anymore. They're gone. And I think death penalty is the weak way out. I would rather see them in isolation, not in general population where they're having a good time playing cards with people, but I would like to see them in isolation, never interacting with a human again. And that is where you're going to spend your 60 years.
Well, I think that's where Letecia belongs.
Yeah,
I don't think she should be having phone conversations that you can listen to, by the way.
Yeah, we'll put those links in the descriptions of some of Letecia's latest phone calls.
Yeah.
And the last one I heard out of May, I think that's how we got to here. In May of this year, she was on the phone with Aunt B, and she was saying, I think my conviction's going to be overturned.
Yeah, right.
What the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, whatever gave her that idea.
Her narcissistic behavior.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's all it could be.
Well, her and Maria need to quit having late night conversation because they both aren't getting out.
No. Yeah, so that's where she is. So she is back in Colorado. I do not know why. But yeah, so she can rot in that prison for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
So and after this, will never speak her name again.
Yeah. So I do have a question, just kind of a general question. Is do you or anybody who's listening, do you think it's right, like if you committed and you're supposed to, like her, shouldn't she be doing that time in Colorado, or do you think it really matters to their location?
I think it matters. I think it depends on the crime, but I think it matters because I think they move people out of state. Number one, because is the prison in their state crowded, right? Maybe they can't take anybody else. Yeah. They move them in my opinion, they move them out of state to decrease the amount of contact with their family and friends. They're a prisoner. They did something horrible to end up there. Yeah. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
We've had some others in different cases that, oh, he's getting beat up too much, or oh, he's this, and we got to move him here, and all of that. Well, you know what? Because I feel the same way. I think no matter how hard it is, that they should be doing the time in the state that it was committed in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but what you don't understand is, so like, let's say you have somebody in a prison here in Colorado, that's where their crime was.
Yeah.
And they want to move them because they're getting beat up too much. The problem with that is when an inmate is attacked, it becomes a huge security risk now for the prison. They can't have that person in their prison anymore because the other prisoners, you can't control 50 prisoners when they're trying to attack somebody.
You can when they're in their cells like they should be.
Well, yeah, but all of our prisons here, so you'd have to reform all of our prisons and make them all single-roomed prisons, because that's not the way you have an isolation unit. But if that's full, that person would have to go to general pop or get moved out of state. Yeah, because they sound like Brian Kohlberger, he's in isolation right now because he's so well known.
Yeah.
But probably in a few years, they will try and introduce him into general population. Like once it all simmers down and people aren't talking about him, blah, blah, they'll try and bring him into general population. But the first time somebody tries to attack him, he goes back into isolation for the rest of his sentence.
Well,
they do not try and reintegrate them again, because it puts the guards and the prison in a security risk.
Yeah.
So that's another reason they'll
happen to deal with the problem. Yeah.
They can't really risk that. Prisons are dangerous places, very dangerous places. Even if all the prisoners are on their best behavior. So that is another reason they moved them. I think to decrease the amount of personal interaction they may have with visitors. And then I don't know why else they would move them. I really think they move people. Oh, and also because, like, let's say our Supermax is full.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
You can't just go, well, we'll put you in minimum security because it's all we got.
No.
You have to move them out of state to a Supermax. So there's a lot of reasons why they move them.
Yeah.
And I think they're probably all valid. And I know prisoners don't like it. I think it was Sarah Boone. She was like, well, can I just go to this one? The judge is like, yeah, I don't think you get a say in this. You're going to go wherever the heck it is we put you. So yeah. So we're going to wrap it up unless you got something else to say.
No, other than our, thoughts and prayers and stuff are still with the father and their family, and, a sister without her brother, and grandparents, and all of the loved ones that this tragedy happened to. It's, and Gannon. That boy should be out running around playing sports or whatever he liked to do right now.
What Gannon wanted to do? He wanted to become a YouTuber.
Did he really?
He did.
Maybe he'd have some viral YouTubes and things.
Yeah.
And she took that away. She took that away from him.
Yep, she did. So we're going to just slam the door on the Letecia Stauch and never speak of her again. And the next one, we're going to try and do these podcasts every other week. So like twice a month. And the next one we're going to talk about is a man named John Deere. And Lori can probably tell better, but he walked into a Planned Parenthood. What year, Lori?
Oh my gosh, you caught me off guard. I don't have that written down, but he it's been quite a few years ago.
2015. Yeah.
He went into Planned Parenthood and shot up the Planned Parenthood and ended up killing a few people.
He killed 3 people and he shot 9 others.
Yeah.
And it was big. It was an hour-long standoff. He didn't kill himself.
No.
So
no, and this guy.
Don't give too much.
Yeah.
We'll want you to come back and hear it.
Oh, absolutely. This guy will briefly show his picture too when we start that. The other thing is that's who we plan on. But if you guys have anybody or any type of investigation or something a story you want to hear about, drop that in the comments. And Vicky, let me tell you, she is a researcher. We will research it, and we can do a podcast on a suggestion that maybe you all have us, that we can look into. If you want to drop us an idea, but the plan is that we will be looking into John Deere.
Yeah. There's been some pretty horrific things that have taken place in Colorado, in the last 10 years, but even more recent than that. So we're going to start there and cover those things and then kind of branch out, because there's even worse ones in other places. If something comes up that's very current, we're going to do the current one. But right now the trials are a little slow. So we're going to go back over some of the others. And yeah, like Lori said, drop suggestions. I know yesterday Michael had mentioned, I don't even remember the name, but it was a recent murder in Kentucky, I want to say, or Tennessee. And I had never heard of it. So yeah, if you've got anything.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on in the news all over the country with that, with what these people are doing. But yeah,
we're gonna keep it pretty kind of like this one, just a kind of a back and forth. And then we'll be chatting with you guys, and we're not gonna get into anything too heavy right now. Because these things can be, if you like true crime, you like true crime, and you know how to compartmentalize what you're seeing and what you're hearing. But for some people, these conversations can be difficult. And, eventually we'll get into some heavier things, and we will put up like a disclaimer so people are aware of what they're getting into. Should it be a little bit more graphic, but we're going to try and do it right. And again, G-Man, that's what he's called. You guys all say his name, Gannon Stauch. And his life was ended thanks to his stepmom. So I think with that, we're going to end, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
We will catch you next time. Like I said, drop us some likes, some comments, subscribe to our channel, and give us any ideas of some, crazy crimes or anything along that line. If you have something that you'd like to share with us, please hit us up, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. And one other thing based on that, we're pre-recording these. So if you are a crime buff and you want to get up on stage with us, send us an email. Email's in our about section on YouTube, but I'll also put it in the comment. It is kiltedpaw@gmail.com. Send us or leave a comment or send us an email and let us know you want to join us, because we would love to have more people.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Just getting a big group conversation, I think would be awesome. It'd be fantastic.
All right. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
All right. See you next time.
See you, Lori.
Bye-bye.